The moment you stop obeying the evidence of your senses, something extraordinary happens. The instant you refuse to react to what is visible, measurable, and seemingly fixed, you step out of the surface layer of reality and into the quantum field beneath it. This is not philosophy. This is mechanics. The world you see is not the source of your life. It is the echo of it. What you call 3D reality is a delayed reflection of prior states of consciousness. It is an afterimage. A shadow. A projection that has already been cast. Yet most people treat it as the authority. They look at circumstances and adjust their identity accordingly. They check their bank account and decide who they are. They observe someone's behavior and redefine their worth. They measure current conditions and shrink their expectations. This is obedience to the echo. The 3D world has hypnotized you into reaction. It trains you to believe that what you see is what is real, and what is real is what has power. But this inversion keeps you trapped inside effects, trying to rearrange reflections instead of selecting causes. Sensory data becomes a dictator. Appearances become commands. And in this constant reaction, your creative authority is surrendered. But the moment you stop reacting, you interrupt the cycle. Ignoring 3D reality is not denial. It is elevation. It is the recognition that the visible layer of life is downstream from something deeper. When you withdraw your emotional allegiance from circumstances, you stop feeding them as causes. You cease energizing the past. And in that stillness, you access the field where probabilities exist before they crystallize. This is the quantum dimension. It is not somewhere else. It is not mystical in the theatrical sense. It is the dimension of causation that precedes matter. It responds not to what you see, but to who you are being. And who you are being is determined in this moment, not by conditions, but by choice. You are not a body reacting to a world. You are consciousness selecting a state. Every time you react automatically, you reinforce the illusion that the outer world is in control. Every time you pause and choose your inner state regardless of appearances, you reclaim authorship. This is the shift. Not dramatic. Not loud. But absolute. The world does not change when you fight it. It changes when you stop treating it as the source. You were never meant to be governed by circumstances. You were meant to recognize them as reflections. And reflections only have the authority you grant them. The instant you stop obeying what you see, you begin influencing what will be seen next. This is the threshold. The quiet rebellion against appearances. The return to your position as the selecting awareness behind experience. Once you stop reacting, you begin directing. Once you stop fearing what is visible, you begin accessing what is invisible. And what is invisible always precedes what becomes visible. If you are ready to operate beyond appearances, subscribe and remain within this frequency. The reason the 3D feels so convincing is because it appears immediate. You see something happen and you assume it is happening now as a fresh event. But physical reality is never current. It is always late. It is delayed feedback from states you previously occupied. What you are experiencing in the visible world is not proof of what is possible. It is evidence of what has already been selected. It is historical residue. A photograph of consciousness from moments, days, or even years ago finally solidifying into form. By the time something becomes physical, its energetic origin is complete. This is vibrational lag. Just as light from distant stars takes time to reach your eyes, the results of identity take time to reach matter. You are not seeing the present. You are seeing the echo of the past. And if you treat that echo as a cause, you reinsert yourself into the same cycle that produced it. This is why fighting conditions reinforces them. When you argue with what is visible, you emotionally confirm it as real and dominant. Reaction is agreement. Even resistance is a form of energetic focus. And whatever you hold in focus, you continue instructing the field to stabilize. The more you push against circumstances, the more you anchor them as your point of reference. The 3D is a mirror with a delay. Imagine shouting at a canyon and then becoming angry at the echo for repeating your words. That is how most people live. They project a state. The world reflects it. Then they react to the reflection and project again from frustration, fear, or doubt. The cycle sustains itself because the reaction becomes the new cause. This is the trap. You believe you are responding to life, but you are responding to old selections. And each emotional reaction plants another seed that will eventually ripen into future evidence. The loop continues not because reality is fixed, but because identity remains unexamined. The moment you understand that 3D circumstances are historical data, you stop negotiating with them. You stop trying to fix reflections. You stop asking them for permission. Instead, you shift your attention to the only point of power that exists, your current state. Because only the present state creates. If something unwanted appears, it is not a threat. It is feedback. It is showing you what has already been assumed. But it has no authority over what you assume next. The delay between state and manifestation gives you a window of sovereignty. A moment to select differently before the next echo forms. Reacting perpetuates the past. Responding from a new identity creates a new future. The 3D will always be late. It cannot lead you. It can only follow. And when you finally stop confusing effects with causes, you reclaim authorship over the unfolding sequence. You are not here to fight reflections. You are here to select states. Like the video now as a confirmation that you no longer confuse effects with causes. Emotion is not a reaction to reality. Emotion is instruction to it. Every emotional state you hold is a frequency pattern, and frequency is the language of the quantum field. The field does not respond to your words. It does not respond to your effort. It responds to coherence. And coherence is emotional alignment sustained long enough to stabilize into identity. You have been taught that emotions are consequences of what happens. That you feel good because something worked out, or you feel anxious because something went wrong. But this reverses the order of causation. Emotion is not the result. It is the signal. It is the broadcast. It is the tuning mechanism that selects which probability stream begins organizing around you. Expansion is alignment. When you feel open, calm, steady, or quietly certain, you are resonating with a version of reality that matches that stability. Expansion feels like space. It feels like breath. It feels like inner allowance. In expansion, you are not chasing outcomes. You are not bracing against loss. You are simply coherent. And coherence is magnetic. Contraction is misalignment. Contraction feels like tightening, urgency, defensiveness, or fear. It is the body and mind collapsing inward. It signals that you are identifying with appearances rather than with authorship. Contraction does not mean you are failing. It means you are momentarily out of alignment with the state you prefer. It is guidance, not punishment. The field is impartial. It mirrors whatever frequency is dominant. If contraction becomes habitual, it stabilizes into expectation. If expansion becomes natural, it stabilizes into identity. This is why forcing blocks flow. When you try to force an outcome, you generate emotional tension. You introduce urgency. Urgency implies disbelief. It carries the frequency of not having. And the field, being coherent and exact, reflects that instability back into your experience. The harder you push, the more you confirm separation. Forcing is resistance disguised as action. Calm receptivity is power. Receptivity does not mean passivity. It means inner steadiness. It means you trust the unseen reorganization that follows coherence. When you feel grounded and certain without visible proof, you are instructing the field with clarity. You are not demanding. You are emanating. This changes everything. You do not create through intensity. You create through consistency. A small but stable emotional frequency sustained over time outweighs dramatic bursts of effort followed by doubt. The field responds to what is dominant, not what is occasional. Emotional mastery is not about suppressing what you feel. It is about noticing contraction and choosing expansion. It is about recognizing that your inner state is always communicating with the larger structure of reality. Every moment carries instruction. You are not at the mercy of emotions. You are the chooser of them. And when you choose expansion deliberately, when you cultivate calm conviction instead of urgent control, you activate the quantum response. Not by demanding it, but by matching it. This is the true lever of creation. Not thought alone. Not action alone. Frequency. And frequency is felt. There comes a point where understanding the delay of the visible world is no longer enough. You begin to ask a deeper question. If matter is not the source, then what is? If the physical is the echo, what is the voice? This is where you move beyond reaction and into direct participation with the field that exists before matter forms. Before anything becomes solid, measurable, or observable, it exists as probability. Modern physics hints at this in its own language. At the most fundamental level, reality is not made of solid objects but of fluctuating energy patterns existing as waves of potential. Particles do not have fixed positions until observation occurs. They exist as possibilities, suspended in a field of infinite variation. This is not mystical speculation. It is measurable behavior at the quantum scale. But what does that imply? It implies that reality, at its foundation, is not fixed. It is open. It is not a single predetermined stream, but a vast architecture of simultaneous potentials. Infinite versions of outcomes exist at once, like uncollapsed waves waiting for definition. This is the pre-physical field. It is not located somewhere else. It is not separate from you. It is the invisible matrix from which physical events crystallize. Every event that has ever occurred first existed as a possibility within this field. Every event that could occur exists there now. All timelines exist simultaneously. You are not moving through a single rigid track. You are navigating an ocean of probability. The visible world appears linear because your perception is filtered. But beneath that linear experience lies a multidimensional structure where past, present, and future coexist as accessible states. And here is the essential revelation. Consciousness is not separate from this field. It participates in it. The observer does not stand outside the system. The act of observation itself influences outcomes. This is not poetic language. It is foundational to quantum behavior. When observed, probability collapses into a defined state. When unobserved, it remains fluid. Your awareness is not passive. It is selective. The field does not randomly choose outcomes. It responds to the organizing principle of consciousness. Selection is not something you do once. It is something you are always doing through your stabilized identity and focus. This means that what becomes physical is not pulled from nowhere. It is drawn from an existing spectrum of potential that you are constantly interfacing with. The 3D world is simply one crystallized layer of this deeper structure. When you ignore appearances as final, you stop confining yourself to the already collapsed version of reality. You turn inward, not to escape the world, but to engage the level where it is still fluid. Where possibility has not yet solidified. Where selection is still alive. You are not waiting for reality to change. You are interacting with the layer where change originates. This is entering the quantum field. Not as a theory. Not as a belief. But as a recognition that before matter forms, possibility exists. And before possibility collapses, consciousness participates. You are not trapped in what is visible. You are interfacing with what is still becoming. And that changes the entire orientation of your existence. Thoughts do not select timelines. Identity does. You can think positively all day and still experience the same patterns if your self-concept remains unchanged. A thought is a surface ripple. Identity is the current beneath it. The quantum field does not reorganize around passing ideas. It reorganizes around stabilized being. This is why effort often feels exhausting. You attempt to override a deeply rooted identity with temporary mental affirmations. But the field mirrors what you consistently assume yourself to be, not what you occasionally wish to become. Identity is stabilized frequency. It is the quiet, repeated internal agreement about who you are. It is the story you no longer question. It is the version of yourself that feels natural. And whatever feels natural becomes your probability stream. You do not enter a new timeline by wanting it. You enter it by being the person for whom it is normal. Wanting and being are vibrationally different states. Wanting contains distance. It contains anticipation, sometimes even frustration. It subtly affirms that the desired reality is somewhere else, sometime else. And because the field mirrors identity, it continues to generate experiences that match the state of wanting. Being contains completion. When you embody a state internally, without waiting for permission from circumstances, you stabilize into a different pattern. The field does not need to be convinced. It reflects coherence. If wealth feels natural in your identity, your choices, perceptions, and opportunities reorganize around that naturalness. If love feels secure within your self-concept, interactions align accordingly. The field mirrors identity, not desire. Desire is a signal pointing toward expansion. But identity is the gatekeeper that determines whether that expansion becomes accessible. If your identity contradicts your desire, the timeline remains inaccessible, not because it does not exist, but because it does not match your stabilized frequency. This is not about pretending. It is about recalibrating what feels true about you. When your self-concept shifts, everything downstream shifts. You interpret events differently. You respond differently. You expect differently. And expectation is quiet selection. The probability stream that matches your internal assumption begins organizing. This is subtle. It is not dramatic. There is no lightning strike. There is simply a gradual normalization of a new version of reality because a new version of you has stabilized. The question is never, what do you want? The question is, who are you being? If you remain identified with limitation while desiring expansion, the field will remain coherent with limitation. If you stabilize into expansion internally, without external confirmation, the field has no choice but to reflect that coherence over time. Identity is the true selector. Not effort. Not hope. Not wishing. Being. Comment with the words, I select consciously, to anchor this identity now. Forcing feels powerful. It feels like action. It feels like determination. But in the quantum dimension, forcing is distortion. Urgency signals disbelief. When you rush, strain, or attempt to control every variable, you are broadcasting a subtle message to the field, it is not done. You are saying that the outcome is uncertain, that it requires pressure to materialize, that without constant supervision it might collapse. And the field, being coherent and precise, mirrors that instability back to you. Control creates resistance. The moment you try to dominate reality, you position yourself against it. You tighten. You brace. You move from alignment into opposition. That tension is not strength. It is contraction. And contraction disrupts coherence. The quantum field organizes around stability, not strain. This is the paradox. The more you chase, the more distance you create. The more you try to force alignment, the more you affirm misalignment. Effort that emerges from doubt cannot produce certainty. It can only perpetuate the vibration of trying. Trying implies not having. And the field does not respond to what you are attempting. It responds to what you are being. Surrender, then, is misunderstood. Surrender is not giving up on desire. It is giving up on resistance. It is the release of urgency. It is the decision to remain internally steady regardless of external timing. When you surrender properly, you are not collapsing into passivity. You are aligning with coherence. Surrender is alignment. It is the quiet confidence that what has been selected internally does not require force externally. It is the willingness to let the field reorganize without interference. And interference often comes in the form of overthinking, overplanning, or overreacting. When you constantly check for signs, you reintroduce doubt. When you micromanage the unfolding, you destabilize the frequency. When you attempt to predict every step, you narrow the infinite architecture of possibility into a rigid expectation. Coherence invites quantum organization. When your inner state is calm and consistent, the field has space to arrange outcomes in ways your analytical mind cannot anticipate. Coherence does not need to push. It does not need to defend. It simply holds steady. Think of water flowing around a stone. It does not force the stone to move. It persists in its own nature. And over time, the landscape changes. The same principle operates here. If you maintain an energetic posture of calm certainty, the quantum dimension begins to coordinate events, interactions, and insights without strain. You will feel guided to act, but that action will not carry desperation. It will feel natural, timely, unforced. Force is noise. Alignment is signal. The more you relax into internal steadiness, the more clearly the field responds. This does not mean inaction. It means inspired movement rather than reactive movement. It means responding from alignment instead of pushing from fear. When you stop trying to make it happen and instead stabilize as if it is unfolding, resistance dissolves. And what once felt blocked begins to organize with surprising ease. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped interfering with it. Creation does not happen in the future. It never has. It never will. Every shift, every selection, every collapse of possibility into experience occurs only in the present moment. The idea that something will manifest later is a misunderstanding of how reality organizes itself. There is no future creation. There is only present selection. When you say, "It will happen one day," you unconsciously place your desired state outside of now. You create distance. And distance is a vibrational statement of separation. The field does not respond to what you promise to become. It responds to what you are being. Waiting reinforces lack. Waiting says it is not here. Waiting says conditions must change before identity shifts. Waiting says time is the cause. But time does not create. Time reveals what has already been selected internally. If you remain in anticipation, you remain in the state of not having. And that state continues instructing reality to mirror absence. Future orientation perpetuates the very delay you are trying to escape. The mind is trained to project forward. It imagines better days ahead, improved circumstances, eventual breakthroughs. But as long as fulfillment is positioned ahead of you, it remains out of reach. The quantum field does not exist in your imagined future. It responds to your stabilized state now. Selection happens in the present identity. You do not step into a new timeline by hoping tomorrow will be different. You step into it by becoming different now. The version of you who experiences the desired outcome is not waiting in the future. That version exists as a state available in this moment. When you embody that state internally, you collapse distance. You close the gap. You stop reaching forward and instead stabilize inward. The shift is subtle but decisive. It is the difference between chasing and assuming. Creation is not an event. It is a posture. Right now, as you listen, you are selecting. Not through words. Not through fantasy. But through identity. Through the quiet agreement about who you are in this moment. That agreement is shaping the sequence that unfolds. There is no cosmic clock deciding when you are ready. There is only coherence deciding what is natural. If you want to experience a different reality, you must stop assigning it to a later chapter. You must stop negotiating with time. You must realize that the only creative point of power is this breath, this awareness, this state. Now is not a stepping stone to the future. Now is the only place reality reorganizes. When you stop waiting, you stop reinforcing separation. When you stabilize the desired identity in the present, you instruct the field with clarity. And the unfolding that follows is not a future reward. It is a delayed reflection of a present decision. Creation is immediate. Manifestation is delayed. The selection is now. Always now. Effort feels noble. It feels responsible. It feels like proof that you are serious. But effort, when rooted in strain, carries an unspoken assumption: it is not done. Recognition collapses timelines. The moment you recognize yourself as already aligned with a state, the sense of distance dissolves. Recognition is not pretending. It is remembering. It is the quiet internal acknowledgement that what you seek is not separate from you. Effort implies separation. When you try to manifest something, you position yourself as a body attempting to influence an external world. You reinforce the illusion that you are small and reality is large. That you must persuade, convince, or earn what you desire. But you are not a fragment negotiating with the universe. You are consciousness itself. Consciousness does not chase. It selects. The difference between effort and recognition is identity. Effort says, I must become worthy of this. Recognition says, I already am the awareness in which this becomes possible. Effort struggles to bridge a gap. Recognition realizes there is no gap. When you recognize a truth about yourself, it feels calm. It feels stable. It does not require rehearsal. It does not demand proof. It is simply known. And that knowing reorganizes perception immediately. This is why awareness shifts reality instantly. Not because matter rearranges in a dramatic flash, but because your orientation changes. Your interpretation changes. Your expectation changes. And expectation is silent instruction. Once you recognize yourself as the version of consciousness aligned with a different experience, you stop looking for validation. Recognition stabilizes identity without force. You are not a body trying to create outcomes. The body is within your awareness. Circumstances are within your awareness. Thoughts are within your awareness. You are the field in which they arise. When you understand this, effort softens. You stop straining to make something happen. Instead, you allow what matches your recognition to surface naturally. Action may follow, but it will not feel desperate. It will feel obvious. Recognition is immediate alignment. It is the shift from seeking to being. From chasing to allowing. From trying to remembering. And once you remember who you are, the struggle to influence reality dissolves. Because you were never separate from it. You are the awareness selecting the experience. And awareness does not need to try. Contrast is not punishment. It is refinement. When something unwanted appears in your experience, the conditioned response is to interpret it as failure, as setback, as evidence that something has gone wrong. But contrast is not an attack on you. It is clarity emerging. Without contrast, preference would remain vague. Without experiencing what feels misaligned, you would never define what alignment truly means for you. Contrast sharpens desire. It brings definition. It forces you to see what you actually want instead of what you passively accept. This is not a mistake in the system. It is a feature. Every moment of contraction carries information. Contraction feels tight, heavy, resistant. It signals that the state you are currently entertaining does not match the expanded version of yourself. It is guidance. Not condemnation. When you treat contraction as proof of victimhood, you freeze it in place. You begin telling a story about why this is happening to you. You assign blame. You search for external causes. And in doing so, you stabilize the very state that generated the experience. But when you treat contraction as feedback, you reclaim power immediately. Feedback does not require drama. It requires adjustment. If you touch a hot surface, you do not argue with it. You remove your hand. If you feel contraction internally, you do not need to fight the circumstance. You pivot the state. You shift the posture. You ask, what is this showing me about the identity I am holding? Contrast reveals where you are still agreeing with limitation. It exposes unconscious assumptions. It highlights where you have been reacting instead of selecting. And once seen, you are free to choose differently. This is the pivot. Not denial of what appears. Not suppression of emotion. But conscious redirection. You acknowledge the contraction without building a narrative around it. You feel it without worshipping it. And then you select expansion deliberately. Expansion might not feel dramatic. It might be subtle relief. A softer breath. A quieter thought. A decision to interpret the situation differently. These small pivots are dimensional movements. They redirect probability streams without needing external confirmation. When you stop labeling contrast as punishment, you dissolve the victim narrative. There is no hostile universe testing you. There is no external force blocking your path. There is only reflection and refinement. If something appears that does not match your preference, it is clarifying your preference. And clarity strengthens alignment. The more you use contrast as information rather than accusation, the faster you stabilize in the state you actually want. You stop fighting conditions. You stop arguing with echoes. You simply adjust internally. Contrast is not here to trap you. It is here to refine you. Every contraction is an invitation. Not to surrender your power, but to reclaim it. Not to collapse into reaction, but to pivot into conscious selection. And when you master that pivot, adversity loses its weight. It becomes guidance. It becomes direction. It becomes refinement on the path of deliberate creation. Stability is the next threshold. Understanding the quantum nature of reality is one thing. Embodying it consistently is another. Living from the invisible first means you no longer treat the unseen as secondary. You treat it as primary. You allow identity to lead and appearances to follow. This is where the practice becomes real. External evidence will not immediately confirm your internal shift. In fact, it may temporarily appear unchanged. Old reflections may still move through your experience. Conversations, numbers, reactions, conditions may echo previous states. This is not contradiction. It is momentum. Your task is not to fight what appears. Your task is to remain coherent within what you have selected. Living from the invisible first means you prioritize internal alignment over external validation. You do not check the mirror to decide who you are. You decide who you are and allow the mirror to adjust. This requires steadiness. Not intensity. Not performance. Steadiness. Consistency is power. You may feel tempted to measure progress through visible signs. To scan for proof. To look for confirmation that your selection is working. But that impulse is rooted in doubt. And doubt fractures coherence. When you live from the invisible first, you do not require immediate evidence to maintain alignment. You remain the version of yourself that matches your chosen state, even when circumstances are still rearranging. This is embodiment. Embodiment is not pretending. It is naturalness. It is the quiet assumption that what you have selected internally is already forming. You move through daily life from that posture. You make decisions from that posture. You interpret events from that posture. When contradictory evidence appears, you do not collapse into reaction. You observe it as transitional. You recognize it as the final movements of an old pattern losing stability. And instead of arguing with it, you stay anchored in the invisible. The invisible is not fragile. It does not need to be defended. It needs to be held. When you hold a state long enough without wavering, it becomes dominant. And once dominant, it reorganizes perception and circumstance without force. There will be moments where it feels easier to revert. To respond to what is obvious. To let appearances dictate your mood. But this is the training ground. Each time you choose coherence over reaction, you strengthen the new identity. You are not here to control every detail. You are here to stabilize who you are being. Living from the invisible first is a shift in priority. It is the decision that your inner state matters more than temporary visuals. It is the discipline of maintaining expansion even when contraction tries to reassert itself. Over time, this steadiness becomes natural. The invisible feels more real than the visible. You stop being shaken by fluctuations. You stop being seduced by appearances. You become consistent. And consistency is what turns possibility into experience. Not because you forced reality to change, but because you refuse to let reality define you. Once identity stabilizes, the mirror has no choice. The field does not debate with you. It does not negotiate. It does not withhold. It reflects. And when a frequency becomes dominant within you, the reflection becomes inevitable. There is a difference between experimenting with a state and becoming it. When you are experimenting, the field responds inconsistently because your signal is inconsistent. But when you stabilize into a coherent identity, something shifts. The broadcast becomes clear. The fluctuation quiets. And reality begins reorganizing around that clarity. This is not dramatic. It is lawful. The mirror cannot display what is not held before it. It cannot invent a reflection independent of the image. If your internal state is steady, the outer world must, over time, conform to that steadiness. Not because it is trying to reward you, but because it is structured to mirror you. The field reorganizes around dominant frequency. Dominant does not mean intense. It means consistent. It means the state you return to without effort. The emotional baseline you inhabit naturally. The identity that feels normal. Once that baseline shifts, the sequence of experiences that match it begins to solidify. There may be a brief overlap where old reflections still appear. But they lose strength. They feel out of place. They no longer resonate. And gradually, without spectacle, circumstances align with the stabilized identity. Manifestation unfolds naturally. There is no need for fireworks. No sudden theatrical transformation. When the mirror adjusts, it often feels logical in hindsight. Opportunities appear in ordinary ways. Conversations unfold in ways that seem coincidental. Decisions feel intuitive rather than forced. The shift feels normal because you have already normalized it internally. Certainty is quiet. When you truly know that the mirror has no choice, you stop watching it anxiously. You stop scanning for confirmation. You stop trying to accelerate the process. You understand that coherence precedes reorganization, and you trust that reorganization follows coherence. The mirror does not resist you. It only reflects what is most stable within you. If doubt dominates, it reflects doubt. If expansion dominates, it reflects expansion. If calm assurance dominates, it reflects that assurance through subtle yet undeniable adjustments in your experience. This inevitability removes pressure. You do not have to convince reality. You do not have to persuade outcomes. You simply stabilize who you are being. The field, precise and impartial, arranges itself accordingly. There is power in this simplicity. When you stop chasing manifestations and instead commit to stabilized identity, the need to control dissolves. You no longer feel urgency. You no longer feel threatened by temporary contradictions. You understand that the mirror is aligning in its own timing, according to the signal you consistently provide. And because you are steady, the reflection becomes steady. The mirror has no choice. Not because you demand it, but because you are the image it must reflect. Emotional mastery is not about becoming numb. It is about becoming precise. When you understand that every emotional state corresponds to a probability stream, you begin to see that small internal adjustments are not minor. They are dimensional movements. You do not need dramatic intensity to shift timelines. You need calibration. Most people attempt transformation through force. They try to overwhelm doubt with exaggerated positivity. They attempt to leap from despair to euphoria in a single motion. But the quantum structure does not respond to emotional spikes. It responds to stabilized patterns. Precision over intensity. A subtle shift from frustration to neutrality is a dimensional shift. A gentle move from anxiety to steadiness is a new coordinate. You are not climbing a mountain. You are tuning an instrument. And the field responds to fine-tuning more reliably than to emotional extremes. Dimensional travel is not theatrical. It happens in quiet moments when you notice contraction and choose a slightly softer interpretation. When you feel tension and deliberately slow your breath. When you redirect your focus from what is missing to what is stable. These are micro-adjustments. But micro-adjustments alter trajectory. Think of an aircraft altering its course by a single degree. At the moment of change, the difference is almost invisible. Over distance, the destination transforms entirely. Emotional calibration functions the same way. When you regulate consciously rather than react automatically, you shift the timeline incrementally but powerfully. Force attempts to dominate emotion. Mastery listens to it. If you feel unsettled, you do not suppress it. You acknowledge it. Then you ask, what would feel slightly more coherent than this? Not perfect. Not euphoric. Just more coherent. And you move there. That movement is dimensional travel. You are not traveling through space. You are traveling through states. And each state corresponds to a different arrangement of external possibilities. The more consistently you choose states that feel expanded, stable, and grounded, the more frequently you intersect with timelines that reflect those qualities. This is practical navigation. You do not need rituals. You do not need dramatic declarations. You need awareness and willingness. Awareness of your current emotional posture. Willingness to adjust it deliberately. The shift might be as small as choosing patience over irritation. Trust over urgency. Curiosity over fear. Each of these choices recalibrates the signal you are emitting. And the field responds to signal. Emotional mastery is not about controlling the world. It is about steering your internal compass with precision. It is about recognizing that you are always broadcasting and choosing to broadcast intentionally. When you understand that even a subtle shift in state equals a shift in probability, you stop underestimating your inner world. You stop waiting for dramatic breakthroughs. You begin practicing small, consistent alignment. And over time, those small calibrations accumulate. The timeline you inhabit changes not because you forced reality to move, but because you adjusted your internal coordinates. Dimensional travel is not far away. It is one regulated breath away. At a certain point, the idea of entering the quantum field dissolves. The language itself becomes inaccurate. You are not stepping into something outside of you. You are not accessing a distant layer of reality. The separation you assumed was never there. You are not in the field. You are the field. The observer and the observed were never truly divided. The sense that there is a world out there and a self in here is a useful perception for navigation, but it is not the fundamental truth. Awareness is not contained within the body. The body is contained within awareness. Circumstances arise within awareness. Thoughts arise within awareness. Sensations arise within awareness. You are that awareness. When you believed you were a separate individual attempting to influence a larger structure, effort felt necessary. Control felt justified. But once you recognize yourself as the very field in which probabilities organize, the posture shifts completely. There is no external reality to persuade. There is no quantum dimension to reach. There is only the remembering of what you are. Non-dual awareness is not a philosophy. It is the recognition that there is no true boundary between consciousness and experience. The world is not happening to you. It is happening within you. Every image, every sound, every interaction appears inside the field of awareness that you are. When this becomes clear, fear begins to dissolve. Not because circumstances instantly change, but because the sense of opposition disappears. There is no outside force competing with you. There is no external authority overriding your selection. There is only a seamless unfolding within consciousness. The quantum dimension is remembered identity. It is the awareness prior to form. The silent presence that exists before thought names anything. The stillness beneath all movement. When you stop identifying exclusively with the body and the story, you naturally expand into this larger recognition. And from there, creation becomes effortless. Because nothing is being forced. Nothing is being accessed. Reality is simply reorganizing within itself. Within you. As you. This dissolves the need to prove. It dissolves the need to struggle. It dissolves the illusion of separation that created urgency in the first place. You are not attempting to influence a field. The field is expressing through your stabilized state. When you look at the world from this recognition, it feels lighter. Less adversarial. More fluid. Events are not enemies. They are movements within the same awareness that is listening to these words right now. You are not inside reality. Reality is inside you. And once that is remembered, the entire orientation of your life shifts. You stop trying to access power because you realize you are the source of it. You stop seeking permission because there is no external gatekeeper. You stop doubting your influence because there is nothing separate from you to resist it. There is only consciousness. Appearing as experience. And you are not a fragment of it. You are it. When you realize you are the field itself, something irreversible happens. Authority collapses inward. The search for someone or something to grant you permission ends. The instinct to blame dissolves. The quiet dependence on external forces loses its foundation. This is the end of external authority. As long as you believe reality is happening outside of you, power appears to live outside of you. Governments seem to control your direction. Markets seem to determine your security. Other people seem to dictate your worth. Circumstances appear to decide your possibilities. And in that perception, dependency forms. Dependency breeds fear. If something outside of you controls your experience, then you must constantly monitor it. Please it. Fight it. Negotiate with it. You become reactive by necessity. You scan the world for signs of safety or danger. You wait for conditions to improve before you allow yourself to expand. But once you recognize that your present state is the organizing principle of experience, that entire structure collapses. Blame has nowhere to attach. If something undesirable appears, you no longer look outward for the culprit. You do not assign fault to people, systems, or fate. You understand that experience reflects internal coherence or incoherence. This is not self-condemnation. It is liberation. Because if nothing outside you is the source, nothing outside you is the solution. Saviors disappear. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You stop believing that the right partner, the right opportunity, or the right authority figure will finally unlock your life. You understand that no external arrangement can substitute for internal alignment. And once that is clear, desperation fades. Present state power replaces dependency. You no longer say, "I will feel secure when this happens." You decide to stabilize security now. You no longer say, "I will feel worthy when they approve." You embody worth without waiting. This shift is psychological, but its effects ripple outward. Sovereignty is not loud. It does not require rebellion or dramatic declaration. It is a quiet steadiness. A refusal to hand over creative authority to appearances. A calm recognition that your state, here and now, is the only point of leverage that exists. When external authority dissolves, so does fear of circumstances. You may still navigate systems. You may still engage with structures. But you no longer treat them as ultimate causes. They become environments, not rulers. This frees you. It frees you from resentment. It frees you from envy. It frees you from helplessness. Because if the organizing power of your experience is internal, then you are never truly trapped. You are never waiting for permission. You are never dependent on a savior. You are responsible. And responsibility, when understood correctly, is not burden. It is access. It means you are not at the mercy of shifting conditions. It means your present alignment matters more than any external fluctuation. The end of external authority is the beginning of psychological freedom. You stop reacting to the world as if it holds your fate. You begin moving through it as the one who selects it. There is no dramatic moment when this clicks. No thunder. No visible rupture in the sky. The shift is quiet. Almost imperceptible. But once it happens, everything reorganizes around it. You stop treating the 3D as the authority. You stop asking circumstances for permission. You stop measuring possibility by appearances. You stop reacting as if what you see is the source of what you experience. And in that subtle withdrawal of obedience, the structure of your life begins to rearrange. Not because you forced it. Because you stopped interfering with it. Ignoring the 3D as cause does not mean pretending it does not exist. It means recognizing it as an echo. It means understanding that what is visible is the residue of prior alignment, not the dictator of present potential. And once you internalize that, your posture changes. You no longer chase outcomes. Chasing assumes distance. Chasing assumes separation. Chasing assumes something is ahead of you that must be captured. But when you understand that reality mirrors stabilized identity, you stop running toward reflections. You begin emanating states. Emanation replaces pursuit. Instead of asking how do I get this, you ask who am I being? Instead of reacting to conditions, you stabilize your inner coherence. Instead of waiting for proof, you embody certainty. This is not passivity. It is precision. Selection replaces reaction. Each moment becomes simple. Not easy in the emotional sense, but clear. You notice contraction and you pivot. You notice doubt and you recalibrate. You notice the impulse to react and you return to alignment. Over time, these quiet adjustments compound. And life begins to feel less adversarial. Not because challenges disappear instantly, but because you are no longer positioned beneath them. You are no longer attempting to manipulate shadows. You are selecting states. You are emanating frequency. You are stabilizing identity. The 3D reorganizes accordingly. Opportunities appear without strain. Conversations shift without confrontation. Insights arise without force. What once required effort begins to unfold with coherence. Not magically. Lawfully. This is the quiet shift that changes everything. You realize that control was never the answer. Reaction was never the solution. Waiting was never necessary. The only leverage point was always your present state. And once you consistently prioritize that, the entire game transforms. You stop trying to access the quantum dimension because you understand you are operating from it. You stop seeking confirmation because you trust reflection. You stop giving power to appearances because you know they are downstream. There is no need for spectacle. Just steadiness. Just awareness. Just the calm recognition that reality mirrors identity and that identity is chosen now. And from that recognition, life reorganizes without drama. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it before their timeline closes.